Hello everybody, my name is Suman Dua. I'm a registered migration agent based in Brisbane, Australia. In this video today, we will talk about the Queensland state nomination requirements for subclass 190 and 491 visa. Subclass 190 is the state nominated visa where state gives you 5 points and you need 60 points of your own. 491 is the state nominated provisional regional visa where state gives you 15 points and you need 50 points of your own. Before I start explaining you about the requirements from BMSQ for the 190 or 491 visa, I would like to give you some updates regarding the skilled migration program. As we all know that the federal budget has been delayed, usually it's announced in May, but it has been delayed until October. So what it means is that the states cannot nominate skilled visa applicants for until October for 190 or 491 visa. So there is a possibility that Queensland will start nominating applicants in October, and it is also possible that they may open before October just in case they can start getting applications and maybe start shortlisting or filtering down the applicants. Queensland state has got their own occupation list, which is called Queensland Skilled Occupation List. So there is also a possibility that they may update this occupation list and may make few changes around the occupations which are in demand. There is also a possibility that they may actually update the requirements, especially for their master's graduates. Usually the master's graduates can apply for, try for 190 or 491 visa without any work experience as long as they have got a 12 months job offer letter. But they may update these requirements and they may start asking for a 6 months work experience in Queensland. They may also start asking for higher points requirement, especially for the competitive occupations like IT and engineering. Please note that they usually open for a very short time for 190 visa, so it's very important that you pre-prepare your application and have the draft of your expression of interest ready. Also with the quota that they get, usually they split it in 70-30. So what it means is 70% of the seats that will be allocated to them in October, 70% of them will go for the 491 visa and only 30% will go for the 190 visa. Now BMSQ has got about 5 categories under which they nominate the applicants. So I've split those categories. First one is working in Queensland. So they do have a separate occupation list for this category. The second one is for their master's graduates. So there is a separate QSOL, which is the Queensland Skilled Occupation List for this category. The third one is for the PhD graduates. So for them, they can actually use any occupation from the Department of Home Affairs occupation demand list, which is anything from MLTSSL, STSOL or ROL. The fourth category is for applicants who have opened a small business in regional Queensland. So again, they can use any occupation from the Department of Home Affairs, which is MLTSSL, STSOL or ROL. The fifth category is for applicants who are offshore and have got 2 years work experience in their nominated occupation. For offshore applicants, they also have another category where if you are a PhD graduate, then you do not need the 2 years work experience. All you need is a 12 months job offer letter. So we are actually going to talk about in detail about each of this category. Before you start looking at the criteria by Queensland for any of this category, first you have to meet the minimum requirements that are set by the Department of Home Affairs. So the requirements that are set by the Department of Home Affairs are, so the first one is that you need to be under 45 years of age. The second one is that you need to have a positive skills assessment in your nominated occupation. The third one is that you need to have competent English. And the fourth one is that you need to have a point score of 65 points, and that can include the state points. So once you have met these requirements set by the Department of Home Affairs, then you can go and look if you also meet the requirements that are set by BMSQ. So for the working in Queensland category, like the category suggests, you need to be working in Queensland from last 6 months in your nominated occupation and also need to have a 12-month job offer letter in your nominated occupation from a Queensland employer. So this is the requirement for the 190 visa. However, for the 491 visa, you need to be working in your nominated occupation from last 3 months, and you also need to have a 12 months job offer letter in your nominated occupation from a regional Queensland employer. So if you meet these requirements and you also have your occupation listed in the working in Queensland list, then you may apply for this category. The second category is Master's Graduate of Queensland. So if you are a graduate from Queensland who's finished their Masters in the last 2 years, and if your occupation is on the Queensland's occupation list for Master's Graduate, then you can apply under this category. However, you still need to be currently working in your nominated occupation, and you also need to have a 12 months job offer letter in your nominated occupation from a Queensland's employer. And it's the same criteria for a 491 visa as well, that you need to have a job offer letter for 12 months from a regional Queensland's employer. However, like I said before, they may actually update the requirements for master's graduates as well, and they may start asking for more experience. The third category is for PhD graduates from Queensland. So if you are somebody who's done a PhD from Queensland in the last 2 years, and if your occupation is on the department's list, which means any occupation from MLT, SSL, ST, SOL or ROL list, then you can apply under this category. You do not need to be currently working in your occupation, and you do not need to have a job offer letter from a Queensland employer, and you do get a waiver for these two things. However, if you're a university lecturer, then you do need to have a 6 months work experience and a 12 months job offer letter from a Queensland employer to get nominated for a 190 or 491 visa. The next category is for applicants who have purchased a small business in Queensland. So to meet the criteria for this category, you need to have purchased a business in a regional Queensland. You should have invested $100,000 for that business. You should have run the business for 6 months, and you need to have 2 BAS statements. You also need to employ Australian resident, so could be a student visa holder or a 485 visa, anybody who's got work rights in Australia. You need to employ them for 6 months for a minimum of 20 hours. The business that you purchase needs to be an existing business, so it cannot be a startup or a home-based business. They also want the applicant to be the 100% sole owner of that business. You will have to provide evidence that you have spent a minimum of $100,000 to purchase that business. So if you meet these requirements, you can apply under small business owner stream, and this stream is only available for 491 visa. The next category is if you're living and working overseas. So if your occupation is on the Queensland skilled occupation list for overseas skilled applicants, then you can apply under this category as long as you've got 2 years work experience in your nominated occupation. But if you are somebody who's done PhD overseas, in that case you do get a waiver of 2 years work experience as long as you do have a job offer letter from Queensland's employer. I hope this video explained the requirements for each of the categories, and what I've done is I've also actually created a file which can be downloaded from the description of this video. So in that file, what I've given you is the criteria for each category. I've also given you the checklist of documents that you can prepare before Queensland opens. I have also given you some tips on writing the commitment statement, because that's something they will ask you once they invite you. And I have also given you the requirements for the financial funds that you have to show to Queensland. So you can download that checklist for free from the description below. And if you do have any questions, you can get in touch with me.